An easily avoidable mistake recently cost me €55 at Paris Charles de Gaulle Airport. And so today's video is a PSA for anybody traveling this summer, and really just anybody traveling, because I can honestly see this becoming the norm moving forward. In case you're new here, hi, I'm Christina from happytowander.com, and this channel is all about practical travel tips from someone who's been there, done that, and made all the mistakes so you don't have to. So if you're interested in those types of videos, be sure to like and subscribe for more. Now on to what happened. For the first time in my entire life, in May 2024, I actually had my carry-on suitcase and personal item weighed at the airport. And this was while flying with Air France out of the Paris Charles de Gaulle Airport. Now, before I give all the sad details, if this has also happened to you before, be sure to leave a comment with which airline, which airport, all the details you can give to help out your fellow travelers. So anyways, here is what happened to me. So again, it's May 2024, it's the day after the Taylor Swift concert in Paris, so I decided to treat myself to a nice taxi to the airport. So I arrive at Paris Charles de Gaulle Terminal 2F, and there I go and see all the people waiting to check in. Luckily, because I already checked in online, which I always do, which I always advise people to do, I went straight to the security line. Now, when I get to the security line, a very nice Air France employee scanned my boarding pass and told me to go straight to security. But I take a few more steps forward and there's a second employee there who asks to see my ticket. So she looks at my boarding pass and says, "Okay, this way, madame." So told me to join a separate line. So at the time, I didn't really know what the second line was for. I thought it was just a separate segment of the security line, all going to the same place. But as I was standing in that line and I looked forward, I realized she was only selecting people with carry-on suitcases to stand in that line. And then I looked even further ahead and I saw at the end of that line was another Air France employee with a luggage sizer and also a scale attached to that luggage sizer. So I saw everybody in front of me take their suitcases, put it in the rack along with their personal item, so any backpacks, any purses, put it on top and look at the magic number to see if it would be less than 11 kilograms, which is their stated allowance. Now, in the past 10 years that I've been traveling around Europe, I have never in my life seen this before, especially not before security. So I was shocked to say the least, and I knew as soon as I saw that scale that my bag was going to be overweight. Granted, my suitcase was actually packed pretty lightly, so it would have been fine on its own, but I do travel with a lot of heavy equipment, so things like my camera, all my toiletries, I put in my personal item, because 99.9% of the time, they do not weigh your personal item. Little did I know, in this particular instance, they would. So instantly he was like, no, that's not gonna be able to go through. And he told me I had to go check the bag. To be honest with you, I did actually go back and rejoin the line and try to make my suitcase look a little bit smaller. Little surprised, the woman probably recognized me and was like, no, that's not gonna work. So then I accepted defeat and then I headed back and I had to check my bag for the cool cost of €55. Now, again, I have to emphasize that in the past decade that I've been flying out of dozens of different airports, dozens of different flights, I have never had this happen. And yes, while it is upsetting to think that this might become the norm moving forward, I suppose we can't be too angry about it given that they do spell out very clearly in their restrictions how much you're allowed to bring on. But they've never enforced it before, so that's just really annoying, but it's something to keep in mind if you are paranoid about getting caught out by this. This is definitely going to change the way that I personally pack light, and a lot of the tips that previously were recommended by a lot of different vloggers like myself will probably no longer work if you are flying with an airline that actually has a weight restriction on your carry-on and personal items. So what can you do to avoid these fees? Here's what I'm going to be doing moving forward. So step number one, it's simple, but you do have to pack less, which can be really tough if you're packing for a lot of different climates, a lot of different occasions, but there are some products that can help with that. So on that note, this week's video is brought to you by Unbound Merino, who I am wearing right now. They're a great Canadian company that specializes in versatile merino wool products that last a lot longer between washes, which means you definitely have to pack less and therefore do not get caught out by overweight fees like I did. Now, I know that merino wool is commonly associated with winter travel and base layers, but the cool thing about this fabric is it can be woven really, really thin, which means they have a lot of summer appropriate items as well. I've been testing their summer collection on my recent Europe trip, and I've really loved how simple their designs are, which makes them really versatile and easy to pair with different items so that it looks like you're wearing different outfits. especially given that merino wool is naturally breathable, it's moisture wicking, it's naturally resistant to odor and bacteria, which means you need to do laundry a lot less often, which is always a plus. Which ties well into my second tip for avoiding overweight luggage, which is to simply plan to do laundry throughout your trip. I know that doesn't sound like the most fun, but honestly, it's relatively painless so long as you pick fabrics that wash and launder well. And another perk of merino wool is that not only does it last longer between washes, but it also dries faster when you do need to wash it. So thanks again to Unbound Merino for sponsoring this week's video. You can save 10% off your first order with this code right here. And now let's move on to our next tip, which is to simply pack lighter luggage. I think a lot of people forget that when you are packing and weighing your bags themselves do actually have a weight associated to them. So for me, I always travel with a hard shell suitcase, but I do have to admit that something like a duffel bag or a backpack would be a lot more lightweight than a sturdy suitcase like that. So when you're packing moving forward, if you are trying to go under the weight limit, do think about which bag you're choosing and try to pick something a bit lighter if you are trying to maximize your weight. On a similar note, do consider just bringing a smaller bag in general. So I've always found that if I have a bigger bag, I tend to fill it as full as possible. So a really great hack is to just bring a smaller bag. And so you can cram it as full as you want, but still be confident that it's not going to be overweight. Having that smaller bag is probably going to make you a bit more ruthless as well when it comes to packing, and it does have its secondary benefits in the form of being more lightweight to carry when you get to your destination. Now, next tip, do make sure you are wearing your heaviest items to the airport. Once upon a time, this was just a suggestion on my part, but these days it's so important because if you have hiking boots or a big jacket or anything that's gonna be heavy, that's gonna take up like half your weight allowance. So make sure no matter how ridiculous you look, you are wearing your heaviest items to the airport because they don't really care if you're wearing multiple layers. What they do care about is the bag that gets put on the scale. Although I did have a comment on one of my last videos saying that they had to weigh their jacket as well, which that to me is where I draw the line. I would really kick off if somebody tried to get me to put my jacket on the scale, but fingers crossed that does not happen because that is ridiculous. Now, some more hardcore travelers would even be stuffing their heaviest items into the pockets of their jacket. I don't know if I'd necessarily do that because again, there have been those horror stories of airlines weighing jackets as well, but if you're looking for a sneaky way to get more weight on, then be sure to put those heavy items like any chargers, any bulky converters, things like that, put them in your pockets of your jacket that you're wearing. Overall, if you're trying to really minimize the amount of weight that you're carrying with your luggage, I would really just bring one of each heavy item. So I would not bring multiple pairs of shoes, for instance, or multiple jackets. Another tip is to consider not bringing toiletries with you and simply buying toiletries once you get to the other side. Now, of course, this is going to depend on your final destination. On this channel, we talk a lot about Europe travel, and honestly, anything you need, you can buy in Europe. So don't worry about using up your precious weight allowance on shampoo or face wash or anything like that, because you will be able to buy it on the other side. Some countries even make it really easy to collect toiletries on the other side. In the UK, for instance, you can buy things online through click and collect, which means you buy it online and then you send it to a store for in-store pickup. They often have store pickup locations in airports and train stations, so they make it really convenient if you're counting every single bit of your weight allowance. Don't stress about trying to bring your toiletries on because that's going to be a lot of additional weight. I would also say if you haven't already, do invest in a digital luggage scale. These are really inexpensive and they're a great way to weigh your bags in advance of your trip so that there's no surprises once you get to the airport. Because at the end of the day, if your bag is overweight, it's better to know in advance so that maybe you can buy a checked bag ahead of time, which is going to be cheaper than doing it at the airport. And also, if you're able to weigh your bags, then you know exactly how much you need to remove to make sure you're under that limit. So I would definitely recommend buying one of these digital scales. They're very handy and you can use them for all your trips moving forward. And on that note, I do have to say, as just a final tip, this kind of goes against everything I've been saying, but remember, at the end of the day, travel is meant to be fun, okay? And so if 55 euros is what it costs to check a bag and have a stress-free airport experience, it really is worth it. You know, if you're not able to pack light and consolidate your things, checking a bag is not the end of the world. So if you're not someone who's naturally able to pack very minimalistically, I would really consider whether or not it's worth it making all these sacrifices just to save a few euro. Because for me personally, I don't think it would be, and especially if you're going on a trip of a lifetime, you're gonna want to have stuff with you. So yes, I would say do recognize that checking a bag does not make you a failure of a traveler, it just means you have different priorities. And if you are someone who is planning on checking bags, then the last tip that I have is to look into credit cards or different programs, loyalty programs for instance, that might entitle you to certain perks like a free checked bag or an extra checked bag, because oftentimes that's going to be worth it if you travel often. All right, I hope you found that video informative. If you did, be sure to like, subscribe, share it with a friend, and help me recoup a bit of that 55 euro. Just kidding, kind of. Anyways, thanks for watching again. I'll see you guys next week. Bye!